My guess is bourbon.
Applejack.
Huh?
Applejack.
It could be, it's apple juice, of course.
Alyssa, we okay?
Yeah, now we are.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Planning Board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry for March. We have an agenda tonight with seven items on it. One item our number 3, 189 Broadway, for those interested, will not be heard tonight. They've asked to come back at the next meeting. So we have 6 items. I would take a motion to open the meeting for us. So move. Second. All in favor? Thank you. The first item on our agenda is to adopt the minutes from the planning board meetings of February 4, 2021. Our minutes have taken on a whole new meaning in the last few months, I think, where instead of having a few pages of written things, we're getting a complete recap of everything that was presented during the meeting, which I think is very helpful historically and good for us, I suspect, but it's a whole different thing, and it doesn't store quite as easily as the old ones did. So anyway, in reviewing the minutes, does anyone have any changes, additions, or corrections?
Not me.
Nope.
If Alan Hale doesn't have any, I don't have any.
I think that's a good criteria.
Alan, I look to you for this.
I just caught that one typo.
Oh, Alan, you're on it.
He's the dude.
He's the dude.
Right. Well, that being the case, I would move that we adopt the minutes for the planning board meeting of February 4, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Great, passed. This item number 2 on our agenda is 156 Palisade Street, which is continuation of a public hearing for site plan review for proposed new multifamily building. I'd like to move that we open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You? Mr. Steinschneider, it's yours.
Thank you. I'm going to share screen and see if this works. It's always an interesting thing. Let's see. Can you see it?
Yep.
That's a good sign. Let's see, I go to view and I say full screen mode. So at the last meeting, I think we made some headway. There were a couple of things that we talked about, some things that you asked us to take another look at. Try and skip some of the stuff we don't need to think about. This is what we showed you at the last meeting. We've made some changes to the windows and massing roofs that are relatively minor, but I think they took it in a direction that was being suggested. One thing I just want to clear up, there's a little bit of confusion that I've seen on social media about what we're actually doing. One of the things I just wanted to make clear that so no one thought we had made some change from it. We are proposing compliance with all the setbacks. We have the 10 plus side yard setbacks, which is actually an anomaly in this neighborhood. So we do have that compliance. We're not closer to people's houses than we're permitted by code. There's also a perception that we've heard that we were building up at the high point of the property, and that's why the building was so tall. The reality, as you can see in this, is that the existing grade in the rear yard is up in our second floor level. So we're actually, we're 1.5 stories above the backyard grade. We're cutting down and building retaining walls to get the building down as much as we can. Don't need to talk about this one. Let's see if this moves. Okay, so here's the site plan that we're dealing with. Most of this is very similar to what you saw before with a couple of small changes. One of the things that was a concern was that the south side of the building basically was one solid wall, and that felt kind of large in scale. So what we did is we shifted the portion that was in the back over. We're still maintaining the setbacks that we need to have, but now we're further from the south property line. I'll be able to show you an elevation of that. There was also talk about doing something different with the way the roof works in the back. The one that we're referring to, we have basically A, B, and C. A is doing what our client would like the most, which is to maintain the roof terrace coming all the way back, although we do have another design which we submitted to you because it was the more different one, which shows pitched roofs in the back that were similar to the pitched roofs in the front. We also have the ramp here set back from the sidewalk a couple of feet. So we do have room for planting along there. We still have enough room that we can have planting between the retaining wall and the deck. We kind of tightened that stuff up a little bit, which I think worked. Although we also have a design that just eliminates the ramp entirely. It's really going to be a call of, you know, what the preference is. And just while I've got this plan up, I might as well mention the impervious on this site. I think we've got a total of 68.63 if we count everything. One of the things we're talking is that this is green roof. If we're counting that as 100%, then I guess that's where we're at. Although the green roof itself is more than, where is my green roof? The green roof is 8.87%. So if I didn't count the green roof, we're under the 60% that we were originally going for. We also have the ability, you know, the walkway we think is nice. Getting to the backyard, it's not mandatory. That would reduce, if we eliminated that, would be reducing coverage, and the ramp also reduces coverage. If we took all of those things off, we'd be under the 54%. So if we eliminated the, if we eliminated the walkway, the ramp, and the porches, would be around 54%. If the green roofs don't count as impervious, then we would be under the 54. Guess if this moves, advances, hopefully. That's just that stuff. One other major change, which obviously we need to talk about. When we started trying to go through the math on this in terms of how this building penciled out and being able to support itself, given the costs and all, understanding that one of the units in the building has to be an affordable housing unit. What we've done is, instead of having 6 2-bedroom units, we're proposing a total of 4 2-bedroom units and 3 1-bedroom units. So the first floor is 3 1-bedroom units, and the affordable unit would be one of those 1-bedroom units. It just it doesn't minimize, it reduces the impact that having one of the units as an affordable has on the viability of the project. It basically makes it be able to work. I think actually, I mean, we've got all the floor plans on all that stuff, but I don't know, they're all, you know, the 2 bedrooms are nice size. They're not large. They're okay. The 1-bedrooms are decent. They're not, again, not large. One of the main issues though, with 7 units, it increases the number of parking spaces that were required. So that's something we just need to, you know, we need to understand how we're doing that. I think we're saying we have to have 9 units. We have 3 on the street now. We have 6 inside. So we hit that 9 number, but I think the board's most likely going to decide that for us to get the ability to count not give us the ability to count the street side, curbside parking spaces, but to think in terms of pilots. So that's something that just needs to be, you know, we have to remember that we have to deal with that. This is basically just walking you through that massing. This is showing the portion that on the side sets back. So the portion that's close is this one. This sets back several feet. This is the version that's got the flat roof. This is the version that's got a pitched roof in the back, which makes it more consistent, if you will, or similar to the front elevation with the way that pitch works. I do want to point out that there has been concern from neighbors of the massing, and going from the flat roof to the pitched roof actually increases the massing. It doesn't reduce it. So that's just something everyone should be aware of. And then this alternative C, the main reason we're showing this is one of the we've got this concern. It's a little bit of a beam counter concern, but what are the numbers? Are we 34.8? Are we more? If we do everything with brick, we're a slightly larger footprint. If we do everything in clapboard, we're at the 34.8 that we originally talked about. I don't know that kind of thing should really factor into a discussion, but it's not my call. I don't think that the numbers on this really make a difference. I think we're 279 square feet different from the 32.8% that is this sliding scale concept, which I'm still not sure I understand, but that's just what the reality is. In alternative C, we're also showing the elimination of the ramp on the front. And what we did is we flipped the stairs around because that would reduce the number of steps up. We do have a door down by the garage door. So somebody in a wheelchair or walker could come down the driveway, come into the building at the bottom and come up in the elevator. Although our intent has always been to make this a full ADA compliant building. Just showing those differences. This is the front with the ramp. I haven't obscured it with a lot of landscaping. But that would be planted so the wall would be softened. Having walls up on the sidewalk, as you guys noted at the last meeting, is actually something that happens in this neighborhood. And this is the version that would not have the ramp, would just have the steps going up to the front entrance. Let's see. I don't think we've shown this so many times, it doesn't really matter. We're still in the world of the average in this context is significantly bigger than what we're proposing. So we don't think it's really as much of an issue. And then we just kind of updated the SketchUps showing, how different things mass in. This does put the plants in, showing how that ramp would work and how it could be softened. This also has the roof in the back, showing how the back of the building would be more of a consistent series of roofs similar to the front. And I think David is on, hopefully. Lisa, did you bring David Kim up in?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here, Patty.
So I'll stop talking then. So any questions or anything that David, anything you want to point out?
I just have one question. Explain to me again why I'll just say I personally, I like the idea of the space for the ramp being used for softening kind of landscaping, but I'm trying to figure out why do you even have the option of having the ramp or not? Like if you don't have the ramp, what do you get from the ramp that you lose if the ramp goes away?
Oh, we reduce the impervious surface, and if our main concern is numbers, that matters.
What do you gain in terms of access? Like if the ramp goes away, what does that mean in terms of accessibility?
Everything that I've tried to do with ADA compliant, I try to make it that a person who's coming to where they live or to visit someone isn't having to find their entrance. Mm-hmm. They can come and walk in the front door.
So how does it work if the ramp goes away? How is it? Who's affected and what do they do instead?
Okay. Somebody who is wheelchair bound or is mobility challenged in terms of a senior, basically with a walker, and would have to walk down or wheel down the driveway into the garage towards the garage entrance, and then there's a door on the ground on the garage level floor that opens into the elevator lobby.
Right.
Yep. And you would have to do that. Okay. So it's not a very, in my opinion, it's not a very dignified approach. You're kind of you're relegating anybody who has mobility challenges, who is mobility challenged, to take kind of a secondary entrance.
And the ramp is whatever the minimum width that it has to be.
It might be 6 inches or 8 inches wider than it absolutely has to be, but
Yeah.
what happens when the people are building these things is things get set in, things are a little thicker, and all of a sudden I wouldn't want to, do it and be 2 inches short or something. So we're showing it right now as 4 foot 6 inches wide.
I'm just
Yeah,
concerned about how much, I appreciate the idea that all because you're in a wheelchair or you're challenged in some way, you should be able to enter like everybody else. So that makes me partial to the ramp. I guess I just, I'm skeptical about the green, how much space there'll really be to create some greenery. Is it possible for the whole building actually to slip back a couple of feet just to make like a more robust planting zone between the edge of the sidewalk and the face of the ramp?
We can take a look at that. We were trying to we've got such high retaining walls in the
Yeah, I
back.
know. No, I know.
I want to have it feeling like you reached out your window and you touched the wall.
I get it.
This building is, the ground floor, the first floor is already almost a little bit more than a story into the dirt on the kind of the northeast side of the property, simply because the hill goes up that much. And I think on the other side, it's probably about 3/4 of the way up. So there's a whole story that's buried in the ground. It's a lot of excavation and offloading stuff. So.
I have to speak up about the ramp too. I just feel like it's a lot of hardscaping in the front of that building. That most of the buildings around it have some kind of front plantings, and 2 feet of something between the ramp and the street and the sidewalk is probably barely viable. You'd have to be pretty aggressive about watering all summer long to even keep anything alive there. And I've been in a wheelchair for months, and I'm a little sensitive to this stuff.
Yep.
And I just feel like going through the same route that you do in a car doesn't seem like a huge problem to me. I've seen much worse all over the place. So if people feel strongly about the ramp, that's fine, but I feel like it's a little bit much.
It's interesting that you're framing this as if we take away the ramp, we take away the walkway, then we can meet the coverage, the impervious. But those are the last things you should take away. What you should do is make the building smaller. Then you could have all those things, and you wouldn't have to make it a choice of taking away the good things in order to, meet some standard that I think is too big to begin with. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, but then the building wouldn't pencil out and be viable to build, so we wouldn't get anything.
I hear that from almost every developer.
I'm not a developer.
And then in the end, it gets built. I just, sorry, Patty, it's I've heard that every time that we've presented something.
And we see projects that we didn't get enough approved that didn't get built. 88 Ashford never got built. 100 Main looks very iffy. So there's a reality, and Michael's on the line. He should speak for himself. I'm not the developer here.
Hi, it's Michael Lang. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Steve, I understand your concern, but it all goes back to the code allows 8 units on this site, and they can't work out at 32.8, 27%, or even 32.8%. We started out at 8 units. We came down to 6. Now we're back to 7 because of the affordable housing unit. At some point, we just have to try and make it work here.
Yeah, you understand in the village code, the more restrictive code.
8 is the max. 8 is the max. It doesn't say you're guaranteed to put in 8 units. You have to meet the number of units and the coverages and the setbacks. You have to meet all of those things. Or
I
get a
understand that,
variance.
but if the amount of units is determined based on the lot size for density, and we meet that, we actually exceed that because we have an 8,675
Right, that's
square
your
foot lot.
maximum. That's your maximum. Doesn't mean you still have to meet the other requirements.
But the whole process started for us asking if we can get additional site coverage. I mean, this isn't like a new request. It started over a year and a half ago.
And the board kept telling you that it was too big.
Well,
So
you
we
did,
asked if we
we
got a
re- we
variance for
reduced
too
it-
big a building, and the answer was no. But, so I don't know where you're going.
But we've reduced this every single time.
and we've
Not enough.
increased, and we have increased the coverage significantly.
I understand.
Okay.
And I appreciate that.
We're in the ballpark, Ed and Steve, that our understanding is that you wanted us to get to. So if we're at like 34-35% site coverage on this, and we can cut that if you want by us eliminating the brick. I mean, we've got 800 square foot, 1-bedroom apartments. They're not generous. They're not big. We've got 2 bedrooms that are smaller than 1,200 square feet.
You know,
These are units.
I don't know what to tell you, Patty. It's just like every meeting, it's the same thing. It's like Groundhog Day here, you know?
I actually thought we made great progress last meeting. I'm surprised this is coming up again.
Well, I mentioned it at the last meeting, although it didn't seem to make it into Patty's notes about the meeting that he distributed.
But
thought
I
the
remember
progress
other
was
board
in the
members saying if
design.
it's that close that I thought we were going to, go with it.
That was the impression we all had.
I'm not sure what to tell you.
I mean, they are in fact, I mean, you are in fact, in terms of like what we hope to be adopting into the code, in terms of the new coverage and the sliding scale and the heights and so on, you actually do conform now, right? Or there's a little bit of, like you were saying,
We don't know. He didn't
there's
put
there's some
Oh.
micro things that might happen
Right.
that are pushing you over very marginally, but you're basically at the numbers that we're going to be proposing, right?
And yeah, we have.
It's not, Patty, could I ask you?
Sure.
Because your coverage by building is not on the plan.
Yes, it is.
And it says TBD.
We've got the building coverage up in the zoning table. It is because right now, I mean, to be fair here, and I think it really is important for you guys to be fair here, we're working with numbers that have not yet been approved by a code. So if I put a number,
Which are higher than the current code.
yes.
So,
correct. So
but
if
what has that got to do with you putting it in the table? What are you proposing? That's my question.
Right. So if you look at building coverage table right here, that includes all those numbers. The impervious coverage table includes all those numbers. We've broken it down to each component. We've even given the sizes of the units. That's all there. The only number I didn't write in was what the permitted is, because that's to be determined.
No, under proposed, it says TBD.
TBD, because we don't know what we're going to be in terms of what the code is going to say. Do we need a variance? Do we not need a variance? Is it a waiver?
No. What you could leave whether you need a variance open, but your proposed coverage is finite by the drawing
Right.
you've made.
Right,
That's not floating. That's you're proposing a plan here
right.
with a coverage.
And we do have the building coverage there, and that could be put into that chart. That's not a problem to put that number in. I just, we
So
are
you're
just,
saying you want me to add it up and put it in myself, or
well,
what?
the building is right there. The building is 30, it's hard for me to read this thing. With the brick, it's 36.22. With clapboard, it's 34.8. 34.8 is what we had on the previous submission. And the 34.8 was the number that our understanding was we were getting close enough to 32.8. We're talking about nuanced things. I mean, you really are talking of 279 square feet.
You're at 34.8?
We're at 34.8 if it's a clapboard exterior. If we go with a real brick, and the disaster, we proposed real brick at 66. They ended up building it with stick brick, which I don't really like. If we're gonna have to do stick brick, I'd rather do clapboard or something like that, but I think that's more ARB. If we do the brick, which this board has seemed to suggest they would like to see aspects of this building be, the thickness of the brick itself, particularly with the new energy code, that basically changes it from 34.79 to be specific to 36.22%.
Just the thickness of the brick.
Just the thickness of the brick. This is not a big lot. I know it's bigger than some of the others, but those others are also covered with buildings that are 40, 50, and 60% coverage. This lot is bigger, and we're trying to get to the number that you have adopted on a sliding scale, which in and of itself is something I would think you'd want to have the kind of flexibility that you'd make the building good, even if a bean counter said, well, you've got 279 square feet more than some number multiplies out to be. And if people are concerned about coverage and they don't want the walkway and they don't want the ramp, we're not arguing that. We're saying that.
Could I suggest, Patty, that you, instead of taking away the ramp, you look at, whatever existing science there is for the green roofs, the green areas of your parking, and see what percentage of perviousness we could conceivably apply to them.
And that now that you mentioned it, that is why the person in my office wrote TBD there, because we're just not sure how we're supposed to be counting that.
Well, that's
is a green roof a zero? Is a green roof 50%? So
by impervious. You didn't write TBD. You put a number in there. You wrote TBD on coverage by building.
Right. So is the green roof, does that count as the same as building, or is that somehow different because it's
part of the structure, so it stays in there? But I think we could eliminate some of it on impervious.
It's also, the reality is that it's fully below grade, so it's a buried structure. So and the only reason we've got it is.
Why don't you give us two numbers? Why don't you give us two numbers on coverage by building, and above grade and below grade?
That's effectively what we've given. The 34.8% is what's above grade, and the 43.66% is what's below grade. And the difference of that is the 8.87%, which is the green roof. That's 770 square feet.
We're waiting. I don't know if IAR is on with us tonight or not.
Was.
I am. I'm listening.
Yeah, he's here.
Okay.
Were you back at AHRB in between planning board meetings?
Nope.
No, I thought you were going to go there.
Yeah, I ended up deciding to have surgery instead. Just seemed like more fun.
Bad choice.
Yeah.
So I hear it.
Yes, listening. I'm here.
Did you present to the planning board last month?
We reviewed this application at our board, and we had also a joint meeting with everybody. I think there are issues that, even though I'm sympathetic to the efforts of the Palisade rezoning or all the criteria that we developed, et cetera, I think the issues here are related to massing, related to lot coverage, impervious surfaces, et cetera, the issues of the green roof and the impervious surfaces, and also flexible to that because I think a green roof adds it's a better surface to begin with. But as a massing, I think there are some hurdles that need to be sorted out at the planning board level. In terms of architecture, like in the architecture of, let's say, the facades, materials, etc., etc. I think they need to be. We are not there yet. I think it's the proposal. It came a long way in a positive way, and but what still needs to be reviewed properly. I don't think the architectural integrity of the elevations or compositions, etc., is there. But anyway, I'm needless to say, I think that the ramp, and I think it's something that it's a plus to the building and it needs to stay. The difference between the brick or the clapboard, I understand that if you choose to do brick, it's a different building than choosing to do it in clapboard. It's a very different in character. It's not a choice of a few inches more on the wall assembly. If you choose to do brick, I think the building will be 4 inches smaller, not 4 inches bigger.
How's that?
The idea is, well, make it the building smaller, and that's it. And you stay within the 34% lot coverage. All I'm saying is, it's not an issue of the material. Is not an issue of lot coverage. There are different considerations, right? I think it's an architectural issue. Anyway, so I think that at the planning board level has to conform with the whatever criteria is decided. We already recommended the design guidelines, and it's about to be incorporated into the zoning. If you conform with that, then it's up to the planning board to approve it, and then bring it to us, and we'll discuss it.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to pass off our responsibility, but it was just interesting to hear your board's view.
Mm-hmm. My board's view it's my view for now. We had one presentation, and we had a few discussions with Paddy, and it's definitely improving from what was a few months ago, and it's a promising scheme, but there's still work to do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't know. Does the other people on the planning board have something they want to say? Because I was going to say, I appreciate what Steve Brosnan is saying. I also do appreciate, I think we telegraphed at the last meeting that we thought it was close, and I still feel that way. And I guess I'm looking for an out here. And I feel like I'm going to propose this, that you come the next time with 2 schemes. One scheme that is just dead on compliant to the number of the things that we're trying to hit, including coverage, and come with the alternative, which is if you suggest if you consider a couple of these other things that we consider improvements, we go over slightly on the coverage, but we think it's a better building. And then the planning board can say, we're still going to put we're going to keep the more restrictive provisions in the zoning because we actually think those are the right things. And if we were, in other words, it's like we're pretending it's a situation where you've come with a building that is slightly non-conforming, and we're sending you to the zoning board of appeals with a note saying we think that these exceptions are worth considering.
Is that the way you'd be doing it? You do it with variances, or would you be doing it with?
Well, we can't technically do it with variances because we haven't technically. Well, I guess actually, this is an interesting point.
Yeah.
We have to, if we approve this project, you actually do have to go to the zoning board of appeals because the coverage on the book, because you far exceed the coverage that is currently on the books.
But you're empowered as the planning board to grant waivers for that. That's exactly what it says you can do in the code.
Mhm.
In the interest of good planning, just like you laid it out. If Ed, where is it set at 32.8? Was that the final number on this size lot?
Yes,
So what, if I'm understanding what,
this board could grant a waiver. That's within the code.
so what I'm, if I'm,
Could I propose that you do what Rob said, and also that we have a conversation next week about how you're figuring your coverage by building, so.
Yeah.
And we can work out the decks and porches and stuff, and then the green roofs, and come to some coherent idea of what that number is gonna be.
that would be great.
And also, could you add the height to the pitched roof?
Yeah, we have heights on there. I'm not, it's one of those things again, what do we, maybe when we sit down, you and I can go out and look at the roofs and you
Yeah,
can.
all I'm saying is the height to the flat, deck roof.
I've got the height to the flat roof, but then we have the 37 foot on the side showing where that hits into the big pitch roof. But we've got, different eaves, and we have one ridge, but we have different eaves. So maybe when you and I sit down, we can provide the height on each one of the roofs and figure out which one is the one that really determines.
The center roof is your elevator and stairway shaft, right?
And that's less than the percentage. So that's
less than 20%.
so that's not an
Okay,
issue.
so it's just the
Our flat roof is
roof
less
to the
than,
north that we're
Yeah.
concerned about.
so I think that makes sense. And we're doing the 32.8%, got that. What, was there a number that you came to with impervious? I had heard 60% at one point,
It
but
was 49, it was 60, and then with the sliding scale, it's 49.2.
so the impervious surface for a larger lot is smaller than what the code right now says. Code right now, and it permits you.
It's still larger than what the code, sliding scale code for a larger lot is.
It's 54, I think.
The code says 54, but what I think Ed's saying is that because this lot is bigger, you don't get to have as much as what other
Yeah,
people can
You
have.
go to the sliding scale.
When did the sliding scale come into the code? I mean, I know about this project, but how long has it been in the code?
2010, when this code was rewritten.
For impervious or for building? I don't remember any sliding scale for impervious.
I mean, I don't remember a sliding scale
Sure.
for any,
I'll show it to
for
you.
the other projects.
Okay,
I mean, sliding scale was never brought up at 40 DeVoe Street, which we're developing. I mean, that's an oversized lot. Never once came up in a conversation.
we haven't had any project we've worked on, nothing has ever been a sliding scale on impervious surfaces.
Okay, we'll look at it when we meet next week. I'll show it to you.
So Patty, I have a question. Can you show us the elevations again? Or what are the proposed elevations that you're proposing now? Is it,
Okay, well, we have two options that we, I've said the one that Michael prefers, and which is
alternate?
alternate A. This is the elevation. Alternate A is the one that Michael prefers, which maintains a larger flat roof, which it should be noted, is a smaller building than the one with the pitched roof on the back. Alternate B is the one that's got the back pitches that are similar to the front pitches. So
But I would also, just to confirm, I also propose no ramp.
Okay,
So
So,
that's C.
okay, that's, well, C is, C has,
A's roof and C's ramp.
right. No ramp, pitched roof, and clapboard on part of the building. So that's, I think that's, and I have no problem. I wasn't joking about surgery, by the way. I really did just get out of the hospital. Well, I have no problem. I'd love to go back to the architecture review board and show them these things and see what their input is on that. I'm hoping that things like whether it's a flat roof or a pitched roof is going to be based on, you know, what people think looks best fitting in this neighborhood.
So I just looked at this elevation for me. I think that, you know, the kind of, it's in 3 quadrants. The quadrant on the left is, you know, a little bit larger, it seems, probably because it protrudes towards us.
Right.
The one in the middle, for whatever reason, that elevator shaft roof is kind of bothering me. It just seems like it just sticks out there. It doesn't fit in with the rest of the landscape as far as you know, the other houses. And then the one, so the left and the right seem a little bit more balanced for me. The middle quadrant, the middle is just kind of, I don't know, it looks like 2 eyes and a guy with a mustache, you know, look at, I just don't see how, like, there's a rhythm of all the rest of the houses on the street, and then that just doesn't fit in. I don't know, but that's my comment. I think it's still too massive in the left side on the top, but proportionally to the other houses, left and right and on the streetscape.
Well, it's pretty much in keeping with the house to the left. I mean, those buildings, I mean, it's actually, that portion of the building it's about the same size as that. It comes down lower. So
right, it has a lot more glass. It has a lot, it's a different look, which is fine. I mean,
yeah, I've got views of the Hudson River, which they must have installed after that house was built. So the idea that we're taking advantage of those views, I think that's a good thing.
That's fine. No, I'm not saying that it shouldn't have, you know, the glass or whatever. I'm just saying that, you know, proportionately, the left and right seem more balanced than the middle section of this building. And it kind of stands out. There's something that I just am like, don't get with the rest of the land, with the rest of the proportions of the other houses. That's my comment.
Yeah, I think it looks really good.
I can say, Patty, that I'm looking forward for the architecture review discussions.
I think that'd be, those issues, I think, Laura, would be good for the HRB to deal with.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all.
No. And
That's my background. I'm sorry.
And which is it's totally appropriate. What I would think would be great, Laura, is if you could come to the ARB meeting.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome.
You know, we present, and I you know, the last thing I'd want is where we have 2 boards with 2 different thoughts. I've been there before. It's awful. So the more that we can find the common ground between the boards, the better.
Okay. But it's still.
So looking at how to move forward with this, I'm still a little unclear about compliance with zoning, both current and the proposed zoning changes we're going to make tonight. So Ed, you're going to sit down with Patty and you're going to double check all those numbers and work out what they actually are. And I can tell you that I'm not comfortable talking about a waiver for, you know, 30% or whatever the deviation is from current zoning code. So, you know, I would definitely be on board with sending it to the ZBA. But I don't really understand exactly how far off we are between either one of those.
Right. I think what, you know, I didn't get to finish what I was saying earlier, responding to Rob. If I'm understanding what Rob is saying is he wants us to show the 32.8% building and then say, here's how we would actually be able to have, this is just absurd, but this is, if we make it a foot wider, we can put a toilet in the bathroom. So it's right. What is the benefit of it just a little bit bigger And we're not talking at 30%, we're talking of our maximum, if we do the whole building in brick, is 36.22. If we do the whole building as we've got it right now, we're at 34.8. So we're 2% different.
Well, but the current code, the code on the books right now isn't it 27, and then there's a sliding
Yeah,
scale?
but-
It's like 22%.
Okay, but
Yeah,
that,
but Alan, in fairness, we are, part of our study of this whole thing and we are planning on proposing a zoning change. And so I do think it's fair for Patty to compare it to the number that we're currently shooting for after doing all these character guidelines and things. But I guess what I was suggesting was come in, show us the 100% compliant project to where we're trying to take the zoning, and then show us if, and then convince us, make the argument that if you let me go do a little bit more here, or if we interpret this as, this as coverage or not coverage, or permeable versus whatever those arguments are, then I think we could make a decision at the next, I'd like to think we could make a decision at the next meeting.
yeah, that'd be great. Just so you understand it, Alan, the code never had MDR2 in it. So it's not that MDR2 was developed as a zoning code with 27 and 54. What we had was TF. And what the land use committee did was in 2008, they looked at Palisade Street and they said, this whole street does not comply with TF zone. And that actually led to not just MDR1 and MDR2, but we even created MDRH, on Clinton Avenue. So it became this idea that there are these places that have to be different. The only problem, the number that was proposed, because I remember proposing it, for the MDR2 zone was 54% building coverage and 60% impervious coverage. That there was no study done at that time. We didn't have any time at that point to do that. So it was basically, let's move ahead, get the code done, and it'll get worked out. It just has taken a lot longer to get it worked out than I think anybody anticipated. But MDR2 was always anticipating something that was going to allow the existing buildings in that neighborhood to be compliant. A good percentage of them, not half, but maybe 75 or 80%. And those numbers, I still, Rob, I think you were going to get me the calculations so I could just take a look. But the numbers we come out with are, we're fitting in with the character of what the neighborhood right now is. We're in the middle of our context zone.
No, and Patty, I'm supportive of the changes. I think they're the right thing to do. I'm just saying that, right now, the code on the books that I believe we're legally obligated to follow as part of the process doesn't support this building. And we need, if it was 100% compliant with the new rules, I could easily say, listen, let's roll with this. But you're not even compliant with that. So we don't believe so. Now, you and Ed are going to work that out. You're going to clarify it for us for the next meeting. But, that's part of what makes it, difficult for me right now to know how to move forward.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I know it's some of the stuff, it's like, it's a very slippery slope. You go one direction with something and all of a sudden something else, becomes what you wouldn't want it to be.
Public hearing, this is a public hearing, isn't it, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
it is a public hearing, and I was gonna ask if there were people that wish to speak once we got to that point.
Which we may be.
Yes, there is somebody.
Should we open the public? I move we open the public hearing.
Good idea. Second, all in favor? Yep, okay.
Okay. Denise, can you?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Denise Wooden. I live at 154 Palisade Street, immediately to the south of the proposed project. And I spoke last month, so I'm not going to reiterate everything that I said then. I described at the time the impact that this building, a building of this size and so close to our house, would have on the people who live in that house. There are the ground floor apartment, which my landlord lives in, and 2 people on the 2nd floor, and my daughter and I live on the top floor. And I just wanted to say that despite some seemingly very small changes, it does not change the fact that this will have an impact on our quality of life, and that another large-scale luxury condo building is not what Dobbs Ferry needs. It's not what this street needs. And I also wanted to ask a question about the green roof. What exactly will that entail? And then I have a request that if this goes forward, which I'm sure it will, there's a tree out front, a fully mature tree, and I think that the proposal calls for tearing it down. I would request that every effort be made. In fact, I would request a commitment that tree not be torn down. And that's all I have to say. I did think that, I don't know if my landlord is here, and because actually I do have a couple more, well, I'll wait and see if he's here. Is Glenn Varkazia in the meeting?
Yes, he is, and he's raising his hand.
Okay, then I'll let him ask some questions that we both have.
Okay.
But can someone speak about the green roof, please? And please tell me if you can make a commitment to save that tree.
Well, I can address the tree. I mean, the green roof, we have to be figuring out what that is. The existing tree, I'm trying to, it's hard to see on this drawing. It's basically, I think it's about where we're cutting in with the curb. So I don't know. I mean, we can take a look at that. I know we had the driveway working at one point, so that we wouldn't have to take that tree down, but that was when we had the driveway closer to the property line. So the idea of moving the driveway in so that we were far enough away from the property line was an objective. That challenged that tree. We're showing that tree replaced, which I understand there's a feeling right now in Dobbs that we shouldn't have trees in the sidewalk. I prefer them in the sidewalk, but it's not my call. We have shown 2 additional trees that would be on the property that would help reestablish that tree canopy on the street.
Well, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. I certainly would not advocate for moving the driveway closer to our property line, but in my experience, in my, what is it, 18, 19 years in Dobbs Ferry, every time beautiful mature trees are torn down, if they are replaced at all, they're replaced by scrawny little twig trees that just are completely, it's not the same. So.
Patty, it's Mike. Could you just explain to Denise that the green roof is actually on the ground? It's not on the roof.
Then why is it called the green roof?
Because it's on top of the garage structure, which is underground. So you won't see the green roof. That's like a patio off of the first floor. That's not on the roof level.
Well, it's probably not it's not a patio because we want it to be something that captures water and offsets what would otherwise be the impacts of having an impervious surface. So a green roof is a way of having what would otherwise be a pervious surface, what would otherwise be an impervious surface, function as a pervious surface.
So in other words, there's not going to be any greenery on the roof?
No, not up on top of the building, no.
Okay.
I mean, we haven't talked about it. It's a roof terrace. I don't know what, I'm not sure what that means. I'm thinking that's like a deck where people could go out and sit outside. It's not, it really, I know everybody keeps making it sound like this building is huge, but it really isn't. It's 3,000 square foot is the footprint of the building.
Patty, I would say to that and to anyone else who, if someone were tearing down a single family home next to your house, 8 to 10 feet away and putting up a building up this size, I think it would be a different story. And I asked the board to consider that.
Denise, it's not a single family, it's a 2-family.
You know what, Mr. Chair, excuse me, folks. Mr.
That's
Chairman,
not correct.
Mr. Chairman, public hearing is for comments from the public, and it's not supposed to be an argument between the applicant and the public.
Okay, could I just clarify that even though it may have been the house itself may have been two-family at one point. At the most recent people who live there and who own the building were an elderly couple living in it as a single family.
Neighbors change, that's inevitable.
Yeah.
Okay, I think is there any more questions from anybody or comments?
Yes, I'll elevate Mr. Varkasia.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Okay, I'm just making sure you can hear me. My name is Glenn Varkasia. I own the property adjoining the 156 Palisade Street for over 20 years. And I'm directly affected by this project in multiple ways. Although I'm hoping to talk directly with my concerns to the developer, I'm going to address a few of the main concerns I have right now. I'm concerned about the potential structure damage to my property and to my house itself. Of course, if you look at the divide where our property divides, my house is around 18 inches to 2 feet away, and I'm concerned about the structural damage there. I'm also concerned about my fence. What's going to happen with my fence? Are you building a wall up against my fence? I'm also concerned about the retaining wall that you mentioned. You say it's a high retaining wall. Now, if you put a high retaining wall there, that just blocks it blocks me in. It blocks my patio. It blocks where I grow my vegetables. It closes the whole neighborhood, to tell you the truth. Plus, I have a barn that was in the backyard that was there before my house was built. My house was built in 1889. The barn held the horses for the factory, and I mean that barn, like, it's part of the neighborhood. It's enjoyed by everybody behind me and on the sides of me, because it's almost like everything is adjoining. Now you're cutting that off. You're putting a retaining wall in front of a historical barn, wood barn that makes the neighborhood much more country-like. I'm also why did you decide to put the driveway on my side of your structure and not the other side where you have an existing retaining wall, so you wouldn't be a nuisance for noise or privacy or the vibrations? Why wouldn't you put it on that side? And the walkway from front to back, that's going right past all my windows. So people are going to be looking in my windows as they walk into the backyard. And also, like I say, I'm reading a couple of the concerns. The disturbance for my tenants. Now, my tenants, one works from home, and even the windows that are facing your proposed building is be facing mine. You'll be looking right into the windows of my house.
And vice versa.
What's that?
And vice versa.
Well, I don't want to see no one's either. Also, like, you can't tell me that my property value isn't going to be affected by a building right on top of mine. That building dwarfs my building, and like say, like he said, if this structure was being built by a structure that was there for a long time, be taken down to build this by any one of you like it'd be you'd have the same concerns I have, and be as disgusted with everything that's going on, even to like ask for like a waiver, like it's gonna get that so things are bigger. How could you even think of that? I have a lot more that I would like to address, but um, from what I understand, the developer and contractor are required to communicate with me, and also the other with residents to tell us what's happening. Even a schedule, even like this, like the during the construction, the dust, the noise. I like to know the times. I want to be able to enjoy the yard. You know, that's all I have to say now. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Hunter, would it be okay if I just clarify 2 of the points that he asked, because I think it'll help.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the driveway, we looked at the driveway in the middle. We looked at the driveway on both sides. We looked at the driveway along the property lines and set in. The way the street pitches favors putting the driveway on the lowest point, because one of the concerns here is getting the building down as low as it possibly can be. So if you picture trying to get the garage under the building, if you go at the lower pitch, you're able to make the building shorter. So that was why the driveway is where it's shown. We did have a driveway at one point that was very close to your property line. I remember you speaking against that, and we said, yeah, that's right, we shouldn't have it that close. So that's why it got moved over. I think there's confusion with the retaining wall. We're not going up higher than your property with the retaining wall. The retaining wall is going up to the grade of your property. We're cutting into the hillside. We're going down from there, not going up from there. So this building isn't being built up on top of something that we're filling. This building is being built down in a hole that we're cutting into the hillside. The purpose of the retaining wall is to hold up your property and not have a problem where we'd be undermining it. You are absolutely right. It has to be done just right, because we are not allowed to damage your property. If we damage your property, we'd be responsible for it, and it would be costly for us to fix. So we're showing the retaining wall set a couple of feet away from the property line. It would be going down. It does not go up. It doesn't obscure it. It doesn't block the barn. It doesn't go up higher than the grade that's at your property line right now.
So what's separating our properties?
Right now, there's the fence that's on the property line. And if you came in 2 feet onto the 156 property, there would then be a retaining wall that was even with the ground where your fence is. That would be the top of the retaining wall. And the retaining wall would then go down from that.
It'd be going down from the curb that the fence is installed on?
Yes.
So we're gonna have a fence and then 2 curbs.
You'd have the fence and the dirt. We have to look at the curb. I mean, it's your curb. If there was something that we needed to do to make that work better, I'm sure we'd be willing to try and work that out. But
I just want to know what I'm going to be looking at, because
right. I'm looking at what would be the ground coming across your property, going to the top of the retaining wall. You'd see the top of the retaining wall like a curb. We would probably have to put a fence on it because it's, we're looking at 7 foot of change of level from the top of the wall to the ground.
So from my understanding, then I'm going to have a fence, a 2 foot space, and another fence.
I mean, unless we can block it off where your fence stays and we don't have to put a fence on, or we have to put a fence on top of ours, and basically it just looks like you've got a wider yard.
Now, even in front where you guys are proposing the ramp. Now, if you look at the picture of everybody else's house on the street, you have a sidewalk, then you have space where people have shrubs, trees, or plants. You're right on the sidewalk.
Well, we're set in 2 feet from it, and that was a change we made, and we have talked about doing this without the ramp if that's preferred.
Well, I don't see how you can even, anybody with what eyes could see that this is looks like part of the street's not going to stick out like a sore thumb, that it's not 4 times as bigger. If you just look at the structure itself and look at the 2 houses right next to it, how it just it's just huge. And you can't say that that's not going to obstruct sunlight and the vision of my tenants upstairs. But when they look out their window, they're going to be looking at a building instead of a tree. Even for instance, in my living room, I got the windows there. I got plants hanging all down, and that's the only sun it gets. So you can't say that I'm going to get the same amount of sun. And it's just, I would hope the board takes into consideration the quality of life that has to that's going to be changed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
One more individual with their hand raised. Heather, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, thanks for letting me speak. My name is Heather Hagerty. I actually grew up on 129 Palisade Street with my two sisters. My two sisters still live in Dobbs Ferry. I owned a house on Ogden Avenue for about 20 years, and now I live in Tarrytown. I lived on Palisade in the 80s. I just happened to see this on Facebook and just clicked on the photo to see what the picture was, and was discussing with my sisters, Palisade Street and what the new development. And we were all sort of sad to see how big it was. Growing up on Palisade Street, it was a street that had large development. We grew up in a building where I used to talk to my neighbor through the window. So Palisades definitely has dense development, but with a mix of interesting sort of like, has an Italian vibe to it also. So this doesn't really seem to mix in with the street. And the street does have a lot of different buildings on it, from the churches and, the art studios down there also. So I just wanted to, give my 2 cents of, it just seems quite big for that street and doesn't really seem to fit in with Palisade Street. Thanks so much.
And there are no other hands raised at this time. So nobody else wants to speak.
Okay, good. Okay, I
Do
think,
we continue this on to the next meeting?
yeah, I think so. I think we'll have a continuation of the public hearing at the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Item number 3 on the agenda, 189 Broadway, advised us that they will not be here tonight. Item 5 on the agenda is 398 Ashford Avenue. The very interesting building by the sawmill. I think David's our man.
Yeah, Mr. Roadbart, there you are.
Yep. Hey, how are you?
Good evening.
Hi,
Good
David.
evening. So I believe, with this site, there's not a tremendous amount of update right now. Unfortunately, there was a memo that I'm not sure if everyone received it just a couple of hours ago from a planning company. Forgot the exact name, but I have it somewhere here. It seemed pretty redundant to the memo that I'm in the middle of working through from George. I believe George is on the call. George, are you here?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Simon, was that your memo?
It sounds like that might have been David. Was it from BFJ Planning?
Yes.
Yeah, that was for me.
Okay. So we're working through a lot of those issues, not to belittle the memo, and I appreciate you taking the time. Where we are right now is we're working through those issues. We're working on getting the site plan updated and addressing similar concerns that George and his team had put together. The question really is while we're doing that, you know, we had a public hearing last month. There was no one that had any comments, anything that I think needed to be addressed. The question really is, can we go to the Board of Trustees to assess the pileup presently while we're working through the site plan issues? Can we do that in tandem? And then by the time we're done, come back to this committee? That's really the question, so that we can be working in parallel, essentially.
No, the Board of Trustees works off a referral letter from this board. So the approval for your project and the approval for any pileup or anything will all be done at the same time at the Board of Trustees. So they're awaiting a referral letter from the planning board.
And there's no way the planning board would be able to refer at this time, just so we can get a pileup number essentially, and essentially just have the change of use approved. No.
I think Mr. Manley is saying no.
Okay. I don't want to take up anyone else's time. I was, just, I mean, it would be interesting to hear from the other folks on the planning board, but I completely, I'm still new to this process, and if that's what the process is, that's what the process is.
We're not in charge of the process about the kinds of things we're talking about on the referral. So
Okay. So then I would push this to next month. I hope to have the updated site plan and survey that we're looking for, so we can make those necessary corrections.
Good.
I appreciate the time.
Good. Thank you very much, Steve.
And we'll need to a motion to adjourn it to the next month.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Continue the public hearing at the next month.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item number 5, 39 Brace Terrace, public hearing for site plan review for proposed retaining wall. I see Paul Petretti is with us.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Speak, Paul.
Okay, so I think I brought this to your attention the last time I saw you guys, okay? And it's a piece of property at Dobbs Ferry, 39 Brace Terrace. What they like to do is level the backyard, and to do that, you have to build a retaining wall. And so that's basically it. George and I went over this today. George had some comments, and I addressed the comments. So we had a nice discussion about it, how we were going to handle everything in terms of, basically the big issue with a lot of jobs nowadays, the big guy in the room is the stormwater, okay? And we came up with a method to deal with the stormwater. We have three roof leaders in the back, which are presently either discharging to the ground or buried. There may or may not be some type of dry wells in the back, but we came up with a way to deal with that, and that is to discharge stormwater actually along the perimeter of the wall. Okay, this is a segmental retaining wall, and that segmental retaining wall has a lot of gravel behind it, and that's basically the application. If you have any questions, I'm sure I can answer them.
Do you have a drawing of it, or I don't have any?
Okay, so I did submit drawings. Okay, I don't know if you have them.
Yeah, Laura, I'm looking at a set of drawings.
Yeah, there's sort of one like
website.
Well, we got a piece of paper.
Oh,
No question. Ed, did you say that you got a drawing just today?
No, this I've had since the
No,
last.
I'm saying Ed.
George said he got a drawing today. I
Uh-huh.
said I did not get one.
Oh, okay.
You know, so the last drawing submitted to the building department
was last month.
February 14. So if it's changed since then, we need new drawings.
So George, how different is the new drawing than the old one?
As Paul mentioned, he updated the drainage, and that's basically the only change on the drawing. According to our comments and what we looked at, it was the other change was the coverage. The coverage went up from roughly 38.5 to 41%. So that's a variance.
Now, how'd the coverage go up if there was no change to,
Okay.
change to impervious surface, right?
Okay, I can address that. On the first go around, we did not do coverage calculations, okay? And that was one of the reasons why, when we finally did them, okay? The drawings that I gave you the last time, okay, are pretty much the same, except this set of drawings addresses in more detail the comments from Han Engineering. And that's basically the difference. The retaining wall didn't change. The fencing didn't change. Nothing really changed. I did submit PDFs several times, okay, and drawings several times too. So there's really, since the first set of drawings, there haven't been very substantive changes. Maybe we added the soil stockpile, the construction entrance. We did address the drainage. There were some other notes, maybe the play area would be covered with mulch, but same drawings. And then part of the Han comments was to create a zoning table, okay? And so what we have is an allowable coverage of 40%, okay? And the existing coverage is 37.5. So they would like to add these two patios, one on the left side of the house. They intend in the future to try and get a building permit and open beside the left of the house to get some access into a sunny area where the kids could play. They want to fence in that area on the left side of the house. I'm seeing a lot of this now. You see a lot of people wanting to level their backyard due to the circumstances we're living under. And so they want to put a patio on the left side of the house, a little sitting area in the back so she can watch the kids play. And they added the playground area. So when we finally did the calculations, we come up with a 40% allowable in the OF4 zone, 37.5, okay, existing, okay, and because of this, the adding these two patios, you up at 41.05%, just a tad above it. Now, whether they want me to go to the zoning board, okay, to pursue a variance, okay, which whether they want to go through that expense or not, I'm not sure. And I think that when push comes to shove, I think that you could probably take the little patio that they want to put in the backyard and take it off, and then you would probably be within coverage. So that's the reason why these drawings are different than the ones that you've seen before. It's just the addition.
Right, so I don't have those drawings. So we need to have those drawings in hand to approve anything. So maybe you can get those to me before the next meeting. And maybe if you have patios added, and you're a little bit above the coverage, you could think about a pervious paver.
So how does that, Edmund, how does that play into this? Okay, I mean, it's still, it's still coverage, right? Unless you guys have changed.
If you have a pervious paver, a pervious surface, you can multiply the amount of permeability and subtract that from your total coverage.
Okay, that's a new one on me, so I'm not.
Yeah, we can talk about
Well,
it.
listen, I'll investigate that. Okay,
And you wouldn't need a variance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
we
mean, what do you do?
did the plans.
Listen, guys, I kind of deal with this a lot. So if you take a 10 by 10 square and you claim that it's pervious, okay, does that mean the 10 by 10 square is not included in coverage?
It's a percent of that 100 square foot is subtracted from.
I understand that. So
Depending on the permeability of the material you're using.
no, I got it, but that calculation is a pretty interesting one to say the least.
Well, I think the product you use is going to give you a permeability percentage. So if it's 50% permeable, you just divide it by 2.
Right.
Well, okay, so I'll look into it. I'm not. Or the other alternative is remove one of the patios in the back. That's all.
Yeah, you could do that.
I'd be willing to look at it. Yes.
But either way, we need the current plan before the deadline for the board meeting.
It's fine.
Hey, Paul, what's the wall height at its highest point?
Let me.
Having a little trouble. All this stuff is pretty small on the drawing.
Yeah, let me open up that drawing. Let me go to the profile.
And then my second question is going to be, what are the impacts on the neighbor down the hill from this, and are there ways to mitigate that?
Yeah. Okay. So Sarah Michelson went to the neighbor and showed her the plan, and the neighbor said, I have nothing. I'm satisfied with it. As long as you, if there's any construction activity that disturbs anything on my property, make sure that you reclaim it. That's it. Let me just open up this drawing that I have in front of me. So we're leveling the backyard to an elevation of 264, okay? And the bottom here is about 253, 67, about 255. So it's at the highest point where it dips down at the corner of the property, it becomes a 9-foot wall. A 9-foot wall.
Which is substantial. I just think that we want to be comfortable. I guess maybe a letter from the neighbor saying that she's okay. She understands it's a 9-foot wall in her backyard and she's okay with it. Or we should address maybe some plantings or landscaping or some way to soften that. I know that would be pretty jarring for me if somebody just built a 9-foot masonry wall on my property line.
Okay, listen, I also have some pictures that I did send in with the application. I don't know if you ever got them, but the type, what the wall looks like. But we can do that. Okay.
Is there any way to share your screen that you can show us them, Paul? I'm sorry.
No, I haven't done that yet. Okay.
I can share my screen with the old plans. Did you want the old plans or just the new one?
The old plan would be fine. Okay, because like I said before, the only changes were to John's comments. So if you want to bring that plan into.
Is this the one?
Yeah, that's the one. There's 2, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So on top of that, I mean, my screen is small, but I'm doing this with a Surface. You can see the plan, and then there's the profile, okay? And you can see the top of the wall. It starts left to right. It goes from a few feet high, and it keeps coming down.
Page 2 is just detail.
It goes from, in the first 30 feet, it's about 3.5 feet. It goes to 3.5 feet high. Then about 6 feet high, and then it drops down right at the corner of the property, okay, where it makes the turn, okay. You have 9 feet high, and then it climbs right back up, and it goes from 9 to 3. So it's only at that corner that you have that. So, basically, the nice thing about the corner is the corner is going to kind of disguise, okay, that short panel, okay, there is a corner there, kind of breaks it up.
So Paul, what is this? I'm sorry, I'm not reading this correctly. segmental retaining wall profile, where is this on the plan? Is it
Hmm.
to
Okay.
the north?
Go down to the plan. Go down to the plan. I'm raising mine up right now.
Want me to go farther down like this?
So is it north or?
Give me a second. I have mine on my computer with a bigger screen, and you have your little guy.
I can zoom in. You have to describe.
Okay, so
It's the upper right-hand corner of the property line, right?
So the corner of the garage, you see where the corner of the garage is? That would be the northwest corner of the garage.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
At the northwest, that's where it starts. Then it comes down, it drops left to right, it drops down.
So this segmental retaining wall profile, is that this length of the north? Is that, no, I'm sorry, that's
Both
west
sides.
wall?
Yeah.
Oh, it's both.
Listen, for orientation purposes, okay, the meridian, the direction system of this map, hold on, I want to get there. It's pretty much north, okay? You can see the north arrow. So you're going left to right, and you drop down, and then because of these 2 8-inch Norway maples and the 30-inch red oak, I put a 2-foot jog in the wall, okay? And then I came, and then I made the corner.
Oh, to go around the tree.
Yeah.
So where is the 9 feet of wall section?
At 9 feet up, when I have to go to my profile, okay, that would be
In the plan, where does that occur?
I'm getting there, okay? I got to pick up a station, okay? Hold on. So you see where the angle point is in the wall? You see where I made the jog?
Right.
Right there.
Okay.
That's 9 feet there.
Well, the angle point would be at the corner.
This?
The wall, the top of the wall is at elevation 264. The lowest elevation is at that corner of the wall where it turns from the side, from the rear, and runs up the sideline. Right there, okay? There's a short section where the wall, okay? So some of that it's only about 9 or 10 feet wide where the wall is 9 feet high, And it's also making that at an angle point. So it kind of disguises that a bit, okay? Yes, it would disguise it a bit. So you don't see this 9-foot panel, you see maybe 5 facing to the property in the back and then 5 on the side. It disguises it pretty good. And then it runs along the side property line. And so it's coming right up.
Hey, Paul, I can show everybody this in 3D because that whole area is covered by trees, is it not?
So I should stop sharing my screen and you'll share yours?
Yeah, this is sort of interesting. Okay, can everybody see this? Can you see that?
Yeah.
So it's this red roofed house, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the back of the property here
Hmm.
that is totally covered with trees, right?
Yeah, that's the canopy. But
Yes.
on my plan, I have the trees are accurately located.
So I don't think you ever see that wall. I mean, it just
Listen, those trees, okay, that canopy that you're seeing,
yeah.
all right, those are, let me get to the trees, okay. So at that corner where we're discussing the corner,
Yeah.
2 8-inch Norway maples, okay, and then there's a 30-inch red oak, okay, and then as we go along the sideline, there's a few
Along
trees.
here.
Yeah. Well, we're not, encroaching the root systems of these trees.
Right. No, Paul, can you see the screen that I'm showing?
Yeah, I can see it.
So, I mean, this is all trees back here where the retaining wall is, right?
Yeah, but look at my plan. I have an accurate look at my plan, and you'll see.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go to the plan, you're going to see I have very accurate location of the trees. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, there is a 20-inch pine on the property. And if you go, if you go to that northwest corner, that's coming down, by the way. Okay. All right, to level the backyard. But you see, I jogged the wall a few feet to stay away from the root system of the 30-inch oak. That's the major tree with the canopy. You know, not to denigrate Norway maples, they're not the greatest, but we don't intend to take down the 3 Norway maples. We don't intend to take anything down except for the 20-inch pine.
Okay.
So we'll see the drawing, the final drawing next month.
Yeah, I mean, Edmund, how many you want and what size?
Like you to go to our website and you'll see the plan submittal form. If you can't find it, I'll have Pat send you one. And it says you can download it on your computer and use it, make copies for every board you go to. It says how many copies for each board. One it's like 1 PDF, and for planning, I think 2 paper, and you know, 1/4-inch scale. Well, on your side, on a site plan, it could be, you know, 50, but you can make it 2 by 3.
Yeah, well, this is a, okay, I'll look at the plan form. I mean, if I give you PDFs 11 by 17, okay, you want that. I mean,
I want a PDF and whatever number of paper copies it says on that submittal form, because
full size,
some members need paper.
full size.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
okay.
Good night.
Was this a public hearing? Do we need to continue it?
The public hearing, yeah, we need to continue the public hearing till our next meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. All right, last item number 6 on the agenda, MDR2 zone, public hearing on possible zoning code changes.
You're up, Rob.
Well, I'm sort of up. I think that there are 2 actions here, right? The first one is we have a resolution to adopt and refer to the Board of Trustees
Right.
the character guidelines for Palisade Street. And I believe, George, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a sort of dedicated standalone resolution for that, right?
Correct.
And I think actually, is this a public hearing? I think we called for.
Yeah, it says it's a public hearing, so it must be a public hearing. We must have called for it.
So it's open.
Could I clarify that?
Yes.
So you did call for a public hearing at the last month. And this month, we were in the process in my department of changing responsibility for agenda items over to another person. And in the confusion, this didn't get noticed. So we can go over it again. You know, I think Rob has some stuff ready. My part of the table is not completely, redone. I've done it all in hand, but I've got to get it on paper and digital. But we
So Ed, just so I
notice
understand,
for April could be the official public hearing.
so we didn't notice the Palisade Street design guideline or character guidelines either?
Yes, all the stuff for the zone change was the one that didn't get out in time.
Okay, so then here's what I would suggest. Yeah, let's call for the public hearing. We'll defer the public hearing for the next meeting. In anticipation of that, I would say there's no need for me to go over the Palisade Street character guidelines because I've done that with you all numerous times. And I think I sent out to you all the most recent PDF. The other thing, just to introduce it, if you let me share my screen for 1 sec.
Okay.
Let's see. Where is this the? All right, I'm sorry. That's the Palisade Street Design Guidelines. The other thing that we're going to be considering next week is, and again, I sent you all both a covering memo and a PDF of this, is there these two boundaries that we want to change for
Right.
slideshow.
Maple.
Right, I'm just, where is the slideshow? So there's these two changes that really probably, I don't even know what the history of it is, but the current break between the MDR1 and the OF4 zones is down the middle of Maple Street. But when you look at the built pattern, it doesn't really make sense. And so what we're proposing is that the boundary be moved to the mid-block alley, South Lane. Seems to make a lot more sense and probably makes a lot more properties in both zones more conforming.
Yeah, we believe, Rob, that this was an errata in the code.
Right, and I know other people, I know Patty and others have raised it, and we're just getting around to finally kind of formalizing it. And then the other change, and then you'll see in the memo I did to sort of spare you all, I went through and I did that little chart, which I think I sent, comparing, well, what is the significance of changing the MDR1 and the OF4? And basically, it's that the MDR1 allows some slightly denser, smaller parcel size, which you can see in this tax lot map on the right. And also some denser housing types like townhouses and 2 and 3 family houses that are not allowed in the OF4. So it just seems like it makes a whole lot of sense. And then the other change is the MDR1 zone that's at Rochambeau Street comes all the way up to Broadway. And here again, following the rule in general that it's a good idea for the two facing sides of a street to have the same zoning, we're suggesting that line between the B zone and the MDR1 zone should happen basically at the west side of that large property where the multifamily building is. And this also makes that building more conforming and just seems to make more sense in general. And again, in the memo that I sent along, I compare what the significant, there are very minor differences in terms of use. The B zone allows some small scale commercial uses like the ones that you see in the buildings on the east side of Route 9 and Broadway there. And B requires somewhat larger lots, which this property is one of the larger lots. So that's one of the things that we're going to be.
Rob.
Yes.
On your slide right now, shouldn't the red line on the right-hand upper right corner, new MDR1 area be new B area?
Yes, it should.
Yeah.
Yes, it should. I apologize. That's exactly right. It should say new B area. I'll change that and send it back out. So that's what we're going to have a public hearing on at the next meeting. That and there are some changes, as Ed was saying. Ed and I have been working on some changes to the tables that sort of rationalize some things that were kind of confusing in the original tables. All of this kind of initially spurred on by the whole discussion of what was happening on Palisade Street, but it gave us an excuse to go back in and clean up some of the other inconsistencies with regards to height. And so that's what Ed is preparing. And I guess Ed will have that done in time to post for the next.
It's worked out. I just gotta have Sarah type it up
Yeah.
and get it out to you.
So then, I guess what we should do is call for a public, I guess the thing that we called for tonight, we're deferring it and we're going to call for it at the next public hearing at the next planning board meeting to adopt the Palisade Street character guidelines and to make miscellaneous clarifications to the zoning map and to the tables in the appendix. Is that right?
Secondly.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We survived another planning board meeting.
So
It's
item
only-
7,
It's only 9:41. I don't know if we can handle it.
you want to take that vote on the new time, Steve?
Oh, yeah, that's a good.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was gonna hold that off. Yeah, there seemed to be a groundswell of interest and support for moving our meeting to 7 PM start as opposed to 8.
But Laura says she can make it at 7:30.
If that's okay with everyone else.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Even a half hour earlier helps.
Sure.
Yeah.
I also think once we get back to, hopefully a normal life and we start to go back into the Village Hall, it may be more convenient for people that are traveling or, taking the train and getting home and try and get into a meeting. 7:30 might be a better option, hopefully.
We'll see. We'll be the only one that have a 30 in our meeting schedule, so.
No. Board of Trustees starts at 6:30.
Ah, okay. Well, then we're in good company.
I don't know about that.
Excuse me.
And let's not rush going back into the boardroom.
Well, I certainly do appreciate you considering me because it is a little bit of a hardship for me to get it on at 7.
Sure, no worries.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah. Was that a motion you made, Rob, or I'll make the same motion?
You can make it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I move that we change the time of our meeting from its current 8 o'clock to 7:30 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Patty, are you hanging around for some reason? I show him still.
No, I was just listening because you guys are fascinating and I enjoy everything you have to say. And I was interested in what you were talking about with Rochambeau because that is one that I think does need to get fixed and it would be really good to see it happen.
Good. Well,
Thank you.
good night. Good night to Patty and good night to all.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, good night all.
Good night.
Good to see you. Stay well.
Hey.